Hello there, welcome to my beginner's guide for Orbit.Industries. I'm Icon and this video will wrap up everything you need to know to enjoy this game. As usual, you will find timestamps in the description box, so if you're looking for a certain topic, go check them out. First things first, what's this game about? Orbit Industries is a space station building simulator. With that, your job is to build the space station, make sure it runs well, make sure you get your missions done, make sure you have the necessary materials available, and so on and so forth. In this regards, it's a fully fledged economy simulator, and I really enjoy the building and management aspects a lot. With that out of the way, let's get started about the actual gameplay. The first thing that I want to talk about is how to build things in the exterior station view. This is basically where you build the big parts of your station, the modules and the connecting parts. Here you get to assemble the different modules and the different services your station will provide. This thing here, for example, is a laboratory. It provides science output and needs in return different things. So to build something, you need to click one of those blue or yellow connectors. Those yellow things are mostly for production of different life supporting things like energy, water, environmental pressure, whereas the blue ones are logistical connectors and connectors where you plug in bigger modules. To build something, you simply have to click the connector and there you go, open up the construction menu. Other option is you click the connector and press the space bar, just like the quick glossary down there applies. Now, the connectors are pretty simply explained. You have here these blue dots, and they show you how many connecting parts every module has. One part is always taken because you need to plug it in somewhere. So a module with two blue parts is basically only one connector here already taken and one connector into the other direction. This can be very important to plug in stuff that's very bulky, for example, to make sure it doesn't collide with other things, because you already might have guessed you're not allowed to overlap anything here. Things can't collide into one another. So you have different sizes, shapes, and you can rotate them with Q and E. And, well, it's up to you how to build your station's logistical connectors. Just make sure that you don't build yourself into a dead end, and make sure that you always have enough connectors open for building stuff that you need. Beyond that, here's the costs. Connectors don't have any upkeep costs, but they produce ever stacking up error values. The bigger your station grows, the higher the error values will grow. Basically, these are things where some of your modules go down for a while and a couple of people might die, so you might want to keep those low. So as you see here, there are various different shapes and sizes of these connectors, and I think I don't need to explain much more. It's really a lot of fun to play around with them and design a shape, be it geometrical or not. So go crazy with those, and if you ever don't like what you build, you can just click any of these modules and dismantle them by pressing R, so you can always rearrange things like you want them. So that's the infrastructural part. When you use your mouse wheel to move over here, you see other modules. So behind these cryptical abbreviations, you can always check out what the item is if you click it and check out the detail window. So ALO is an airlock, which produces something and needs something. We're going to talk about these cryptical things a little bit later in the connection and mission part of this video. Let's just ignore them for now. What's important to know is that these items have an upkeep cost. They cost you money, so you should not build any of these main grid items without knowing for what reason you want to build them. For now, we're going to build up a BCE, also known as Briefing Center. This provides something which I'm going to explain in a minute, and we're going to confirm that. And we're going to select the other connector here, and build a ADM, also known as Administration Center. These two modules will provide services for the station, but they will only provide these as long as they're correctly wired up and supplied with resources. So the external building menu doesn't really get more complicated than that. You just have to take care. This blue connector is a wonderful example. For example, here, you wouldn't be able to build onto this connector another laboratory like that, but you could maybe rotate it, sometimes that works, or you just accepted that you have to build more bridge parts to move that whole thing a little bit away until the job's working out again. So here, for example, that's how you got to think about these things, and it doesn't get much more complicated than that. The only thing that's really worth thinking about is that your error values stack up if you just build too extensively in terms of bridge modules. So beyond that, they're dirty cheap, and it's mostly to give you the option to build around. Okay, so let's get into the connection part, or the abstract system layout. This is basically the circuit board of your space station, or much more an abstract depiction of that. Every module that you've built out here has its place on this board here. So you don't get the connectors, you only get the bigger clunks. So airlocks, laboratory, habitat capsule, tritium battery. So you see that these are all the items on your space station, and you see those lines that connect them. First things first, it's all pretty easily explained. So every one of these lines has a color which stands for the resource. So you see the tritium battery provides electricity. So it has here one arrow leading outwards, and the yellow line now is just the flow of electricity that every module obviously needs, which has an inward arrow. So you see here, the laboratory wants electricity. It also wants this blue stuff. What's the blue stuff? Environmental control. So I always imagine it's something like air, or I don't know. Doesn't really tell you. So, well, or does it tell me? Yeah, here, it's atmosphere. I don't know what atmosphere is really supposed to be, but we just accept it for now. And it also needs the resource provided by the airlock. These are all abstractations, so don't take these things too literal. What this means is the laboratory needs power, atmosphere, and logistical supplies. The airlocks provide logistical input and output, so this means that stuff is docking onto your space station and picking up things and and bringing new things to your station. So once all of these things are connected, the unit is fully functional. So we see down here our habitat capsule is not connected. You see here the connectors, it has this atmosphere pressure sign and the logistics sign. To connect things, it's dirty easy. You just left click the proper bar and then you just drag and click there again. So that's really all that's there to it. So we've just built two new modules that are not present on the layout. Here in the deployable systems menu, you get all the modules that aren't on the board yet. So let's place down the administration. With Q and E, or no, only Q and E, you can rotate these things, and you already can see it has three connectors that want to be supplied. Always the direction of the arrow shows you if it's either an input or an output. So you see the tritium battery has an output arrow here, and this administration module, of course, only wants energy, wants atmospheric pressure, and logistical capacity. There's really no, as far as I've seen, there's no maximum payload on these connectors. It's really just for you to organize things. And let's drop down the briefing center right next to that. And depending on your own taste, you can just draw this board to your own liking. I highly recommend you to find some sort of ordering system, because this thing will grow huge in the course of a time. Now, this is basically how you wire up everything. The newer and to be researched modules will need new resources. There's going to be water in play and much other things, but the process will always be the same. Every resource has its own color, which will be then drawn out in these lines, and then you just have to connect the lines with the input or output things. So as you see here, for example, the environmental control, you put in electricity and you get the output thereof. This stuff, same goes for the airlock. Electricity and atmospheric pressure go in, out goes the logistical output. And you have to always pay attention if these modules only want, if they're only receivers, or if they're also outputters of something when you want to organize these things. Okay, it doesn't get really much more complicated than that. The real complications come up the bigger this thing grows. And one last thing worth mentioning, when you mouse over any of these modules, you can just press the space bar and move them around. So if you ever have the urge to reorganize things, it's that easy. It's also not costing you any resources to reorganize these things, so go crazy. Now, with that out of the way, we can finally talk about how to do missions and the like. Let's talk about the parameter thing down here, because this is where it gets important. We have here our money, credits, workforce supply. We have supply of 100 workers and a demand of 50. And we have here ticks, that's our time unit, and we have here the passage of time, which is completely halted right now. So when we get over here to the station management interface, we have different informations here, but let's get into the procurement sector first. This is your mission window, so to say. Here, this is all a little bit overwhelming at first, but it's actually all really, really simple. In the middle here, we see all the projects that we can access there. Over here, we have an overview about, well, this is basically a filtering system for this here. So you can either filter for contracts, research projects, which we haven't unlocked yet. Here you can see all the active things that you got, or the completed things that you got. These here are basically all jobs that your station can take over. For example, here, microbiological classification. So this will bring you 480 credits, and you will take 48 ticks of time for that. And here you see what you'll need. This icon here is laboratory. So this mission here will keep one of your laboratories busy for 48 ticks. And you'll receive that amount of money for that in return. Let's do this. Just press the start button there, and when you get over here to the active screen, now you see that stuff's getting done. Over here, you see the overall capacity of your services on your station. So you see here the BCE, we got that connected, and that is the briefing center. So these abbreviations are a little bit nasty, but you'll get behind them in no time. And you see here we also have an administration service now available. You see how many you have in total and how many you have available. Whenever you take up a quest or a contract, the station gets blocked for the time being. Understandable, because they're busy with that project. As you see here, sometimes missions need more than one station. So the life-saving vaccines mission here, for example, would need 3 laboratory units at once. So you'd need 3 connected labs on your space station for this job. So you can already see that this little measly little critter here won't get as far. And to do more of these juicy jobs, you will have to expand your station accordingly, and that's where the fun begins. Now, missions don't get much more complicated than that. It's really just picking them up, making sure that you got the necessary services provided, and as long as you do, the status will rise, and once the status has reached 100%, you can click here, a close button, mission accomplished, job's done. Now, that's how missions in general go like. When you go deeper into the game, you will unlock new research. So here in the module glossary, on the station overview, for example, you see here these modules can be unlocked once you have 80 workforce employed, 60 workforce employed. For example, here you will unlock the water synthesizer and these things. So that's really where you'll get your new texts and modules from. And as you see here, there's also upgraded versions. Their solar array comes later as an upgrade to the tritium battery that we're using right now. So list goes on and on. So to unlock new technologies, your station has to grow. And when you get them available, they'll be available as contracts here, which will keep parts of your services busy again until you can build new stuff. That's how missions run in this game. There's also several different story layouts in the game implemented as I'm speaking here. So there's also story included if you just don't want to build for the sake of expansion. Now, that's all I have to say for our missions for the moment. Let's talk about the efficiency here and the actual optimization of needs of your modules and the like, because we've already seen that each of these modules needs certain resources, and you might have already asked yourself how to know what do I need. So here on the station overview, you go into the resource details panel. Make sure that the time is not paused and you want to check them out in real time. And here you see your different resources the station needs and the different amounts that your station produces. So for example, energy, we have a supply of 21. We're using 21, but we would have a demand of 36. So this is a clear sign that our station doesn't have enough power. But what does that mean in the consequence? It does lower the efficiency of your modules. It's not like your modules are going to stop working only because you don't have enough electricity, but they'll stop working at full capacity. So this goes on for all the other resources that we've seen here. Atmosphere, for example, you see we have a supply of 14 and a demand of 23. And we have here also, well, the payload exchange. This is one thing where I'd say this is okay. We might have only a supply of 14 and the demand is 15, but this will, at the end of the day, not really influence your efficiency too much. Why is that a good idea not to go for that? It's simply explained. When you go here to these yellow connectors, when you check out those batteries and all, everything you build needs workforce and upkeep. And if we check out, for example, the airlock also needs electricity and atmosphere and workforce and upkeep. So every single part here which you increase will usually increase the demands of other things as well. The batteries are the simplest dudes that will only increase your workforce demand, but once you have more workforce demand, you will need a new habitat, and that new habitat will need new energy and new atmosphere. That new atmosphere will need more energy, and so on and so forth. There is never a spot where you will be able to just provide 100% efficiency without overbuilding like crazy, because there's another downside. Every single one of these modules produces upkeep costs. So if you just overproduce, like I mentioned there, if you just say, nah, I don't care, I just have 80 energy, 50 payload, 60 atmosphere, yeah, that's okay. Your system will run with 100% efficiency, but your finances will go down the drain. Your job in the efficiency optimization is to find the balance between your needs and your realistic capabilities of putting things up. Because like I said before, the larger your station grows, the more vulnerable it'll grow to errors. Therefore, it's also a question of not building too much, because you don't want to have accidents all the time, which kill your workforce off, and workforce only replenishes over time. So the deeper you go down this game, the more complicated it'll get, because as you see here, you'll unlock more and more resources, and it's pretty simply explained. These resources are usually necessary to get these things going. So this is your service output, and this is your resource balance account. And usually all these things will be needed to make these things go. So you can't really imagine how brutal things will go once you have the needs of all these things and you need to balance out all these. So it really grows into cool and epic proportions later on. So yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say for a beginner's guide. Of course, all of these things are deeper and there could be more explained, but I think the rest is now up to you to explore, and I think there's nothing left to say. If there are still vital questions open because I forgot something, feel free to drop me a comment down below if you just want to talk, of course. Comments are welcome too. Leave me a thumbs up if you enjoyed, and of course consider subscribing to the channel. There's daily content coming up there, and there's hundreds of videos rolling there which you can watch to your own pleasure. So last but not least, I also want to mention in the description box you'll not only find those timestamps I was talking about, but also a link to my Twitch channel where I do stream quite regularly. Also, you'll find other links if you think you want to support this channel. You'd be very, very welcome. Whatever might be the case, I hope you have a wonderful day, and see you soon, and enjoy gaming. Bye-bye.